Hello and welcome. This is Alice Thomas here with SS Multimedia. Today, we're going to be talking about line plots.
Alright, so let's go over our objective. So our objective is understanding how to create a line plot and analyze the data. Okay? So, of course, creating means making. That's the closest word I can think of that, so making. So understand how to make a line plot. And a line plot is, something that looks like this. So it helps you, understand the data. So if you have 1 and 2, say you have two siblings, one of them has 5 friends, one of them has 2 friends. You would list that like this. One of them has 5 friends. Of course, I'm making that up on the spot, so might not be the best example, but this is just how it would look in general. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna erase that a little bit there. And then you're going to analyze the data. So what that means is you're going to analyze this, right? You could figure out, okay, what is the greatest amount? You would think 1, okay, because it's the highest. You'd think 2 because it's the lowest. It's just stuff like that, analyzing it and figuring out stuff. One thing we're going to learn about today is an outlier, right? Which might be something you don't know about yet. So different stuff. And we're going to go over it. So, let's go ahead and get started. Let's start off with an example. Okay, and here it is. It says, create a line plot from the data below. Okay, Fred's class created a chart showing how many people had how many pets. Okay, so 1, 3, 4, 3, 5, 2, 3, 4, 8, 6, 2, 5. So when you look at this, right, when you analyze this data, you can't, right? This is just a whole jumble of numbers that just happen to find its way into a chart when you first look at it, right? You can't figure out, you have to look through every number to figure out which one is the greatest, every number to figure out which one is the least. So, this is why we're creating a line plot, okay? Step 1 is to make it look like a number line, okay? So, kind of draw a number line here. Okay, so that is a little too close. I am going to scroll down. We don't need all the other information now, so we're just going to go that here. Make 1 right here. It's going to be kind of like a number line. Okay? So, we're going to be here. And now we're going to do this. We're going to make a number line with it. So, first step is to find out the greatest and the least. Number 1 is just find the least. So, the least is what? See, 1, that looks like it might be the least. 2, no. Okay, so it looks like 1 is the least. So, we're going to mark this as 1. Problem is, we can't just keep going. We need to know the end point. Where do we stop? So, let's figure that out. What is the greatest? I see 4. That looks like that could be the biggest. 4 again. Oh, 8. 6, 2, 5. Okay, so 8 is the greatest number. Okay, and now we're going to write this part here, this tick there, as 8. And now we're going to spread this out evenly. Okay, so we're going to split this into eighths. So this is halves. This is quarters. You want to try and spread it out equally. And then this would be eighths. So you would do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so now I made too much. So I am going to erase this, and this part's going to be hard, but I'm going to have to erase this line right there. And now I'm going to try and draw a line that goes through all of this. So you want it to be as straight as possible. Of course, the reason it's not straight for me is because I struggle with drawing straight lines. It's known. So you want to draw it as straight as you can. Surprisingly, this is as straight as I can go. So we're just going to go with that. Let's go back down here again. Okay. So now that we're here, let's go ahead and get started. So we want to have the chart in our vision. And what we're going to do, you're going to count all these numbers. So how many times, we're going to start with the lowest. How many times does the number 1 show up? So you're going to count. Okay, 1. Okay, so it only comes up once. So I'm going to draw 1x. Okay, it can be anything, but we're going to go with x's because that's the most commonly used. Next, let's count how many times 2 shows up. 1, 2. So 2 shows up 2 times. Okay, you might use a different color when counting to make it, make it look interesting or to separate it, but when making the actual line plot, you want to have the same color. Okay, otherwise it looks too colorful. You want it to still have some you still need to be able to analyze it in the end, right? So, let's go with this. So, I'll use blue. 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm starting to see a pattern here. So, I am going to write down 3 of those 3s. Okay? Of course, it's still data, so you're not going to continue with the pattern because honestly, I don't think that pattern could be happening, or maybe that is how it is, but let's just keep counting. Next, let's do 4s. 4 is 1, 2, right? So, 1, 2 x's. And you'll see that all 2 x's should be almost perfectly lined up. So if you were to draw a line like that, they would line up at the top. Okay, this will come in handy when analyzing the data. Okay, next let's use red. We have 5, 1, 2. Okay, 1, 2. So you see, we're almost done with this. This is actually kind of quick when actually making the line plot. Okay. Then we have 6. What does we have? 1. 1 x, and then there's no 7s, and it's going to count the 8s. 1. So we're going to draw 1x. Congratulations, the line plot is complete. And so now let's cover the actual analyzing the data part of it. So we got our line plot done, now let's cover the data part of it, okay? So, of course, now let's just go over, let's pretend that we don't analyze the data, okay? Number 1, there would be no point of you actually making this in the first place then, if you're not going to analyze it, because then it's just like any other table. Okay, so we really want to analyze the data here. So here are some questions that might be asked, right? What is the greatest, right? It could be greatest anything, right? It could be the greatest amount of people, right? But in this case, if you go up to our question, show what is the greatest amount of people who had the most pets the most, right? But it's a little confusing, so I'm just gonna put who has the greatest, what is the greatest blank, okay? Do you know what I mean? So if you were to look at this, you would have to go through many countings, right? You have to count, okay, 1, then 1 is once, 2 is twice, you have to count everything. But if you are here, if you're here, then you would figure out that this is the greatest. Why? Because it's at the top, right? That's why I said you want to have it lined up, so if you draw a line, it'll all be at the top, right? So as you can see, that's the same. If you were to draw a line with the 1s here, same thing. You can draw a straight line. Obviously, I'm not good at drawing straight lines, but you get at the top. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my different color here, and we'll realize that, okay, 3 is the greatest. So we're going to write down what is the greatest. Okay, 3 is our answer. 3, what? We don't know. We're just going to stick with this right now because we're not too much on analyzing the actual. So this question here, how many pets? Honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. I could care less about. I don't really care about that question right now. I'm trying to teach you how to create the line plot and analyze it. Whether or not that involved using labels and all that stuff, I don't really care right now. So we're just not using labels right now. We're going to stick with the line plot part of it. Okay? Another question you could get asked. What is the, you guessed it, least, right? Because if you have greatest, you have to have least. Okay? Now, when using a line plot, now you can realize that there might be multiple here. Okay? Now, you could say 7, right? Because, well, it has nothing there. But since it has nothing, we're not going to count it. If it has nothing, we're not going to count it. It has to have at least 1x. Okay, so I see 1 with 1x, 6 with 1x, and 8 with 1x. So, our answer here, believe it or not, is 1, 6, 8. 3 answers there. Pretty cool. Okay, and now here's another question you could get asked. Okay, what is the outlier? What is the outlier? Okay, so in every bit of data, there probably is an outlier, but some of them there aren't. Okay, so let me explain what an outlier is. Okay, if let's take for example that this 6x wasn't here, okay, the outlier would be the 8. Why? Because it's the farthest away from the data. So the outlier can mean two things. Okay, its definition is basically set apart from the rest of the data. So the reason why it's an outlier is because all the other data is chunked right here, and then we got this one bit lying alone right here. So it becomes an outlier, right? This has so much data, but when you make the same circle, you don't really get much. So it's an outlier, okay? Now, that's not the only way it could become an outlier. But first, before I forget, I'm going to draw the x back again. That way I don't forget. But let's say all of these had 3. Okay? So, you know what? I'm not going to do that because I'm going to forget soon. And then I'm not going to do that. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to draw circles. Okay? That way I don't forget. But let's pretend those circles are x's. Okay? And let's pretend that all of them had 4. Okay? And this guy was rather than 8. Okay, so let's pretend that this x was not there. It was right here and it had 2. Okay, now your first reaction could be no, it's not an outlier. Why? Because it's part of the whole chunk of data. But the definition of outlier sets it apart from the data. Is it set apart from the data? Yes, because every bit of the data has 4. This has 4, this has 4, but this one has 2. So this one would be the outlier in this case. If it had 1, it would be an outlier. If it had 3, then that's a maybe not call. So, enough simulations, right? Let's go back to the real thing. So I'm going to erase all the other stuff I had just drew, right? So let's get rid of all that stuff. There you go. This is our original line plot. So, and of course there's nothing there. So, this is a if call, okay? Because there's only this 8 is not an outlier because of size, because there's also 2 others the same thing, right? So because it's size-wise or value-wise, it's not an outlier. But if you were to figure out where the whole chunk of data is, 8 would not be included. Okay, that's a bad circle. But 8 would not be included. But when you were to circle this one, you notice that's only 1 away. So when it's 1 away, it's an if call. Okay, this is like a maybe not call. Could be 8, could be not. So we're going to call this one as, yes, we're going to call it an outlier. So what is the outlier? 8. Okay, but this one could be your call. If you think that maybe 8 is not so far, right? Maybe these two could be grouped together, then it's not an outlier. Now, in some cases, there could be two outliers. Okay, so let's say you have a number line. I'm not going to spend as much time making this one straight, but basically you have 1, 2, 3, I don't know how much it's going to be, or 4, 5, 6, and 7. You have 1, 2, and then you have the rest of the data right here. Okay? Both of these would be an outlier, not just this one, because these would be grouped together and this would be grouped together. Okay? Now I know you might be thinking, okay, but what if this one is the main piece of data and this one is the outlier? No, because this one has more. It has 3 sets, more value, and this one has only 1 small bit and only 2 sets. So yeah, in some cases there could be 2 outliers. So I'm going to erase that. Okay? So that is how you can answer questions and analyze the data from your line plot, okay? And of course, there might be more questions asked. And there could be more questions asked. But these are the 3 main questions in the data, okay? The last one that might not pop up as common, but still there. What is the common value? What is the most common value? What is the most common? Okay, so this is not average. This is literally the most common. How many? So how many times does 1 pop up? Okay, you just count that. 1 pops up 1, 2, 3. Okay, how many times does 2 pop up? 1, 2, 3. How many times does 3 pop up? 3. So this one wouldn't really have a most common value. So some of them have it. So those last 2 questions might not usually have it. So they might not have the those last 2. They might not actually have an answer. So you have to be prepared to look for it but not find the answer. So that being said, let's go ahead to problem time, where you need the answer. So we have this line plot. We're not going to be testing your making the line plot skills. We're going to be testing your ability to answer questions. Okay? So question number 1. What is the greatest? What is the greatest value, right? Because we don't have the question. What is the greatest? Okay, so you're either going to say 1, 1/2, 2, or 3. The reason I'm saying not 2.5 because I think it's obvious that that has nothing. Okay, so I'm going to give you to the count of 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, that would be this one, right? So it would be 1/2 is your answer. Woo, clap, clap, clap. Okay, why? If we were to draw a straight line, notice it wouldn't line up. If we were to draw a straight line, the second to last would line up. So this one is 1x ahead of the previous one, and do 3x's ahead of the last one. But if you were just glance at it, you would actually notice that this one is the greatest because it's just so far ahead. So the answer to that question is, what is the greatest? Well, the greatest is 1/2. We're going to go with 1/2. Next question we have what is the least? Right? Blank. I'm going to give you a count of, what do we call it? 5. Forgot what I'm counting to. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, so our answer here is this guy right here, 1. Okay, because if you were to draw a line here, it wouldn't line up with any of it, right? So our answer here is 1. Wrong. Haha, tricked you. Okay? Honestly, I didn't trick you. I made a mistake, but mistakes happen. Just don't make too many of them. So 3 is the least. Okay, I'm sorry, 3 is the least. If you were to draw a line, it would come nowhere near the rest of them. So 3 is least. Okay? So this brings us to a very important math lesson. Okay, I might have stated this before, I might haven't, I might not, I don't know. It's okay to make mistakes. Mistakes happen, it's math. But don't make too many. You can make mistakes, but just try not to make too many. Okay, because you don't want to do too many. But learn from them when you make it so you don't happen again. Okay? And then we have our third question. 3. What is the outlier? No, why am I drawing a blank there? There's no blank. What is the outlier? Okay, I'm going to leave you to count 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ta-da! If you guessed 3, you guessed right, my friends. Because it's already circled, I'm going to box it now. 3 is the outlier. Okay, so our answer here is 3. Okay, why? Because, well, number 1, in value, it would need so many x's to catch up to the second least, right? It would need 3, 4 more x's? So in that point of view, it's an outlier. Second point of view, the main data could be found right here, but this data is all alone just right there. The distance between them is a little too much. Okay, I know that I said that if the data is only 1 away, so let me draw those circles again, right? If the data is only 1 away, it's only 1 away, then it's an if call. This is not an if call. Why? Because in both ways, right? In this way and in this way, right? It's an outlier, right? So this is not an if call. This is a for sure definite call. This is the outlier. So I'm gonna erase all that because we might need it for our next question. Our last question for the day. What is the most common blank? You have to the count of 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Trick question. There is no most common, right? Because all the data sets are different, so there's no most common, right? Like if you look, this has a different value, this has a different value, this has a different value, and this definitely has a different value. So most common, none. So yes, that was a trick question. Haha, I wanted to stick one in there. Alright, so that's how you can make a line plot and analyze the data within the line plot. Okay? And if you haven't already, I'm realizing that I have previously forgot to mention to post your answers in the comments below. So, if you got any of these right, please post them down in the comments below. I want to know. Okay? So I'm hoping that after you watch this video, number 1, you enjoyed it, and number 2, that you came out a little smarter after watching it.
Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And when you subscribe, make sure to hit the notification bell. See you in the next one.